Hello and welcome to this week's news bulletin from the Christian Institute. Conservative MPs have made renewed calls to David Cameron this week in an effort to get him to drop his plans to introduce same-sex marriage. It follows news that the government is to press ahead and introduce a bill to Parliament early in the new year. Last week, Maria Miller gave details of the outcome of the government consultation on redefining marriage, but failed to mention the 500,000 signatures handed in by the Coalition for Marriage. Comres boss Andrew Hawkins says a majority of the public think the contentious move is just a PR trick by the Prime Minister. And speaking on BBC's Newsnight programme, political figures were also quick to voice concern.
In any political party you get issues which create concern and will lead to resignations. This is probably the most divisive issue I've seen, even compared with issues like Europe or the economy.
It's having a dramatic, calamitous effect on activists, as I understand it. There were hundreds, thousands of Conservative activists who are saying we're not going to work for the party any longer, we don't believe what it's doing on gay marriage, and we are going on strike. And no government, no party can put up with that sort of situation for long without it having a very, very significant electoral impact.
For some reason, David Cameron has decided to try and rush this legislation through Parliament. I don't think the thing has been thought through to any great degree.
I think the worst thing about this ill-thought-out proposal is it demeans marriage, which is sacrosanct, and it has a special meaning in the Church of England especially. But also it's the law of unintended consequences. If we rush through this law and down the line there will have to be definitions created, there will have to be, I don't want to go on to clause 28, but marriage will have to be taught in churches and in schools to school children, and no longer will we be able to say that marriage between a man and a woman is something special.
Staying with politics, and over 50 MPs from across the political spectrum have said that a Plymouth Brethren group in Devon have been singled out for unfair treatment by the Charity Commission in a long-running case about charitable status. The Commission refused to register the Brethren group because its Holy Communion services are for members only. The 2006 Charities Act includes a public benefit test for charities, but the MPs say that the Brethren case shows that there is a need for the government to review the Act, saying that it is vague and has led to severe difficulties. The MPs have also called on Charity Commission Chairman William Shawcross to reconsider its decision, commenting, "Many other small religious groups, including the Druid Network, the World Zoroastrian Organisation and the Lambeth Congregation of Jehovah's Witnesses, have had no problem in obtaining charitable status. Why have the Christian Brethren been singled out in this way?" Belgium is considering widening its euthanasia threshold to include children and Alzheimer's sufferers. The proposed changes to the country's decade-old law were submitted to Parliament this week by the Socialist Party. The draft legislation calls for the law to be extended to minors if they are capable of discernment or affected by an incurable illness or suffering that we cannot alleviate. Socialist Party leader Thierry Gier said, "The idea is to update the law to take better account of dramatic situations and extremely harrowing cases we must find a response to." But Dr. Peter Saunders, director of campaign group Care Not Killing, warned that what we are witnessing in Belgium is the steady intentional escalation of numbers with a gradual widening of the categories of patients to be included, adding, "Once you relax the law on euthanasia or assisted suicide, steady extension will follow as night follows day." Some news in brief, and ministers at Westminster have rejected calls for an automatic pornography block for all internet service providers. They say an opt-in system could cause overblocking and prevent access to websites which provide helpful information on sexual health or identity. The government say they felt there was no great appetite among parents for an automatic block, despite MP Claire Perry handing in a petition of over 100,000 signatures. Officials say they will instead urge ISPs to prompt parents to tailor filters themselves to protect their children from accessing inappropriate content. And a Scottish Government committee has decided to look into the idea of presumed consent for organ donations. It follows a 10,000 signature petition lodged with the Public Petitions Committee calling for an organ opt-out system to be introduced. The Welsh Government recently published a bill to introduce a similar system. Well, you may remember last week we brought you the first of our two special Review of the Year features, looking back at important events and issues affecting Christians during 2012. Today we move on to the second half of the year. Sam Mason starts this report in July.
The second half of the year began with the Scottish Government saying it will press ahead with redefining marriage, despite its own consultation showing a large majority opposed to the plan. And as the London Olympics got underway, a city in China honoured Scottish Olympian Eric Liddell, who inspired the film Chariots of Fire. Eric became a church missionary in China, setting up many schools for children. Hotel owners Peter and Hazel Mary Ball, who were sued over their policy of restricting double rooms to married couples, won permission to take their case to the Supreme Court. And in a landmark euthanasia ruling, High Court judges decided that doctors could not kill severely paralysed man Tony Nicholson. Sadly, Tony died just a few days later. In September, Lillian Liddell, the Christian registrar who was disciplined because of her stance against civil partnerships, was one of 4 Christians who had their cases of religious discrimination heard in the European Court of Human Rights. October was a busy month. Anne Widdecombe gave a rousing speech at a Tory party fringe event opposing government plans to rewrite the definition of marriage. A judge ruled that Suzanne Wilkinson, a Christian bed and breakfast owner, broke equality laws when she refused to allow a homosexual couple to share a double room. There was widespread outcry following the opening of Northern Ireland's first private abortion clinic by Mary Stopes. And a bill to tackle the growing problems of Sharia courts had its first debate in Parliament. The bill was introduced to the House of Lords by Christian peer Lady Cox. A High Court judge ruled that bosses at Trafford Housing Trust were wrong to demote Adrian Smith for posting on Facebook that gay weddings in churches would be an equality too far. And a report by leading bioethics expert Dr. Callum McKellar was published, outlining concerns at proposals by the government's embryology regulator to create genetically modified babies with 3 or 4 parents. And in December, the House of Lords voted in favour of an amendment tabled by Lord Deer to reform a controversial law that criminalises insulting words or behaviour. The congregation at St George's Tron, Glasgow, which split from the Church of Scotland in June over the ordination of openly homosexual ministers, had their church building repossessed by the Kirk. And the government consultation on gay marriage was branded a sham, as Culture Secretary Maria Miller excluded a Coalition for Marriage petition of 500,000 signatures.
Well, that's it for 2012. I hope you found our news bulletins helpful and informative. And don't forget you can get more details on our stories by visiting us at christian.org.uk. We'll be back again in January, but until then, on behalf of all of the news team, may I wish you a happy Christmas and a peaceful New Year. Goodbye.